Ray Gardner. He's one of our new members.
So what I'm going to be discussing is I picked up a coin at the coin show in Lubbock. And you were there with me, and I was pretty excited about it. And so I did some finagling and trading and finally was able to come down to an agreement with it. And I don't know how many of you guys know about the Lafayette Dollar. And yeah, those are pretty cool looking little coins. And so I needed it for my commemorative set, so that's what I was looking for, and was able to pick one up. But with commemoratives, I thought, well, who was Lafayette? And that's what I kind of started with when I went through looking for it. I had a couple of, I printed out some images up here that are blown up so it makes it a little easier to see, but Marquis de Lafayette was a French aristocrat and military officer. He fought in the American Revolution, commanding American troops in several battles, including the Siege of Yorktown. After returning to France, he was a key figure in the French Revolution in 1789 and the July Revolution of 1830. He is considered a national hero in both countries. The unique thing about this guy, and it'll say it here in the history too, what blew me away the most, he was a commissioned officer at age 13, and when he came here to fight in the Revolutionary War and was made a general, he was 19 years old. So how many of us at 19 years old could lead a troop of guys? I mean, that just blew my mind. He was a kid. I remember signing up joining the U.S. Navy at age 18. I didn't have a clue what I was going to do. So, Lafayette was born to a wealthy landowner family in, I can't pronounce this very well, Chavignac, in the province of Auvergne of South France. I don't speak French, so it's okay. He followed his family's martial tradition and was commissioned as an officer at age 13. Convinced that the American Revolution was a noble cause, he traveled to the New World seeking glory in it. He was made Major General at 19 years old. But he was initially not given American troops to command. He was wounded in the Battle of Brandywine, but still managed to organize an orderly retreat. He served with a distinction in the Battle of Rhode Island, and in the middle of the war, he sailed home to lobby for an increase in French support. He returned to America in 1780 and was given a senior position in the Continental Army. In 1781, troops under his command in Virginia blocked forces and led by Cornwallis until other American French forces could position themselves for a decisive siege of Yorktown. Lafayette returned to France and was appointed to the Assembly of Nobles in 1787. Convinced in response to the physical crisis, he was elected a member of the Estates of General in 1789, where representatives met from three traditional orders of French society: the clergy, nobility, and commoners. After forming a national consult assembly, he helped to write a Declaration of Rights of Men of citizens, and was assisted by Thomas Jefferson in writing that for France. And this document was inspired by the United States Declaration of Independence, invoked natural law to establish basic principles of democratic nation state. He also advocated the end of slavery, in keeping with his philosophy of natural rights. After storming of the Bastille, he was appointed Commander-in-Chief of French National Guard and tried to steer the middle course through the years of the Revolution. In August 1792, radical factions ordered his arrest. He fled to an Austrian Netherlands. He was captured by Austrian troops and spent more than 5 years in prison. Lafayette returned to France after Napoleon Bonaparte secured his release in 1797, though he refused to participate in Napoleon's government. After the Bourbon Restoration of 1814, he became a liberal member of the Chamber of Deputies, in a position which he held most of the remainder of his life. In 1827, President James Monroe invited him to the United States as a national guest, where he was invited to 24 states in the Union and met, I guess this means a rapturous reception. So like they just threw mega parties for this guy. He died May 20th, 1834, and was buried in the Picus Cemetery in Paris, under soil from Bunker Hill. He is sometimes known as a hero of two worlds for his accomplishments in service of both France and the United States. So that brings us to who he was, why he's on the coin, you know. So he, at a very young age, had an incredible impact on our country, even though he was from another country. And so in 1889, some prominent Americans sought to elect a monument in Paris in honor of Lafayette. Among these supporters were Chicago businessman Ferdinand Peck, whom President William McKinley chose as commissioner to the exposition. Peck made a monument proposal as part of the American plans for Paris, and appointed Lafayette Memorial Commission to raise funds for it. As part of raising the funds, the $1 commemorative coin approved by Congress March 3rd, 1899. Charles Barber designed the coin after the sculpture of Washington by Jean Anton Hudden and 1824 medal of Lafayette by Francis Augustin Cunos. The bust of Washington and Lafayette appear on the obverse, and for the reverse, he used an early sketch and planned monument designed by Paul Wayland Bartlett, whose name appears at the base of the statue on the reverse. The cost of the coin was $2 at the fair. The mintage was 50,026. So there's only 50,026 coins that were minted, but it didn't sell out. 14,000 of them were later melted by the United States Treasury, leaving only 36,026 in existence. The Lafayette dollar is valued from several $100s to tens of thousands of dollars, depending upon the condition. So that kind of explains why we have the Lafayette dollar. And I wanted to give some of the history about Lafayette, why it was important, because it was important to some people early in their country's history to want to honor this guy. And I look at coins as memorial stones. The same way that when we go to the cemetery, it's to remember the lives of those people who had come before us. It's a memorial stone. And he has his image on this coin as a friend with Washington, and because they served together and fought for the same freedoms that we have today. Even though he wasn't a part of our country, he was willing to risk his life for us. And I thought that was pretty phenomenal, and that we would honor him in that way. So I picked up this coin because I have the commemorative coin set, and I actually have the coin here that you guys can look at. And this one is in pretty fine detail, I would say. I paid, well, the original price on it was $750. So to purchase a $1 coin for $750, it better be a good coin. But it's basically uncirculated. If I were to have it graded, who knows what the value would be. It is highly toned. It's probably been sitting in an album for the last 100 years. I thought the unique thing was that it was minted in 1899 and then sold at the World's Fair in 1900. And that's the reason why it carries the date 1900 though.
Now, where was the World's Fair in 1900?
I believe it was in Paris.
Okay.
Because that's what they were raising the funds for the statue. And that's where they were trying to get the funds for. We did the minting, we created the coin, we were raising the money for it because we wanted to give it to France at the 1900 World's Fair.
And that statue is in Paris then?
That statue is in Paris.
Okay.
Yeah.
So I didn't know if they made one similar in the US.
Yeah. Well, that's similar to what we heard. Our Statue of Liberty faces France's Statue of Liberty that faces us. It's a smaller version, but they face each other.
Okay.
Yeah, I've seen that, but it's about this tall.
Yeah, it's smaller, but they face directly at each other. So that's all I have to say.
Okay, we'll stop there.
Thank you.
Thank you, Brian.